Hey, moron! Hey, moron! Dude! Look at me! I'm the waterboard, dude! Here we go!
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody is having a great day. It is Monday. It's the beginning of the week. Don't forget to tune in tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, for our live stream. We'll be talking about what else, the Dallas Cowboys. It is now July 1st. On the 23rd of this month, 3 weeks and 2 days from right now, the Dallas Cowboys will be reporting to training camp. And I dare say that Dak Prescott, who never flies out with the team, who usually gets there early, will probably be there in 3 weeks from today. The truck with all the equipment will be there in Oxnard, and we'll be able to finally get through the NFL silly season right now, which is what's going on, what is going on, all the speculation and everything else. And Jerry Jones, well, he's got everything that he wanted, which is, I like to stir some shit up, and the shit has been stirred. It has been cooked. It has been now served to each and every one of us Dallas Cowboy fans. It's crazy as we sit here 66 days away from the beginning of the NFL season. I have to say that this is kind of crazy. Okay, it's kind of crazy, but maybe it's not as crazy and far-fetched as we think, because right now, again, it's silly season. It's silly season. Everything is blown out of proportion. Anything that happens, like, Malik Hooker says that maybe, Micah Parsons should be forced to be paid, is major breaking news. And quite frankly, with the exception of Zach Martin getting paid again before Micah Parsons, that's where I kind of say, well, maybe that's a little bit off. But you got to take care of Dak. You got to have a quarterback, I know, or maybe you don't. And here's the thing. Bucky Brooks on NFL.com has gone through and he announced breaking news. Breaking news. The Cowboys have entertained Trey Lance starting, replacing Dak Prescott. And I'm going to tell you, that might not be the worst thing in the world. If you have thoughts of this, and again, this is silly season, okay? This is silly season. I'm going to put this in the same category of when Cam Newton was let go from New England. Y'all remember that, right? And I can't remember who it was that said this, but some ESPN host, female, said the Dallas Cowboys will do due diligence and checking out Cam Newton. Well, you do due diligence, unless you're Stephen Jones and say he's going to cost too much. You do due diligence about any player that's out there. Doesn't mean that you're really interested in signing. And that's where I'm going to say that this may be the case as well. Now, I'm not going to say if all of a sudden that Trey Lance wows everybody and they say, man, he can take over. Because it might have been far-fetched for people going into Dak Prescott being the fourth quarterback on the roster, where Jamil Showers, who became a defensive back, was ahead of him, to look and say that's the heir apparent to Tony Romo. That's kind of crazy when you think about it, but that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, things like that can happen. However, you don't see from what you've seen thus far that Trey Lance is there. We're still trying to figure out if Trey Lance can take Cooper Rush's spot. And that hasn't been proven yet. Be that as it may, I'm going to go on and say the Cowboys should. If the Cowboys are going to go through the season and say, you know what, Dak, we're not going to get you this contract, and Dak leaves, you're in Schitt's Creek. Because I can guarantee you that Dak Prescott's going to have you, at least a winning season, if not a playoff team. If that's the case and Dak walks, then you don't know if Trey Lance is the one. And if Trey Lance isn't, you're not going to have the draft capital to be able to get another one that's at the top of the draft. So, Cowboys, if you're not planning on signing Dak, then you might as well already move on. Find out, is Trey Lance the guy? And if he falters, well, then you look at it kind of like, okay, we sucked, but we're up high in the draft, and maybe we can go ahead and draft a quarterback. You know, for me, and this is what I was telling my wife, that maybe we should look at this season like Major League. And for those of you who don't know Major League, that's where we got the idea for Joe Boo, a Dallas Cowboys version. In that movie, the owner was tired of being in Cleveland. She wanted to move her team to Florida. But she had to basically be ass to be able to do it. So she did everything in her power to make sure that she had the worst team out there. She did. And so that's where she brought in all these guys that she figured these are a bunch of losers, over-the-hill guys. This will never become a team. Tom Berenger, in this, when the coach kind of let them all know, listen, the reason you're here is not because you're winning, because she's going to sell the team. You're all going to be cut. They're going to bring in great personnel after the team gets moved to Florida or wherever it was that she was trying to take them. And there you go. And that's where Tom Berenger says, well, there's only one thing left to do. Win the whole effing thing. And they proceeded to coalesce around each other and end up winning. And of course, when they won, saved their jobs. And I have to say, with Jerry Jones, it has this Major League feel of them literally doing everything possible to make it harder on them. No disrespect to our UFL guys, but that's like bringing guys that have not made it. It's not bringing in ringers. You know, you're handicapping the quarterback. You know, it's kind of like there's no hot water in the training room, right? As the coach says, hey, these guys work hard. Their muscles need a whirlpool and a hot bath and stuff, you know, and she smacks Serrano on the ass and says, oh, they're big boys. They need to toughen up. Now, the only thing I don't expect to see is the Cowboys going to games in a broke-down Trailways bus. But maybe the Cowboys just need to go out and win the whole effing thing. If you're not going to pay people and you're not going to fill in the holes and the needs that you have, it's truly Major League. And if you're going to do that, play Trey Lance. What you might find out is Trey Lance taking his lumps can become your quarterback, in which case, there you go. If he's not, you've done bad enough that you can get one. That would be where I'd go. So, with that being said, let's go to Rich Eisen on who's the most likely to be the first $60 million quarterback.
Going to be the first $60 million a year annual payout quarterback in the National Football League, Tom?
Right now, Dak Prescott's the one that's got the best chance because he's maximized his leverage at each point through the course of his negotiations, not just by playing out his deal and potentially playing it out again here in 2024, but the fact that the Cowboys had to use a second franchise tag to buy themselves time for the paperwork to go through when he signed that extension a few years ago. That means a third tag would be 144% of his original cap number this year. So you're talking about close to $80 million in 2025. That effectively makes him untaggable next year. And so for the Cowboys, if you're trying to get something done before he hits free agency, potentially even before the start of the season or training camp, 60 million very possibly could end up being that type of number. And I know that there's been a lot of speculation in Dallas. I saw it again on a TV network this morning. Is this it for Dak and Mike McCarthy? Are they both, looking to save their jobs here? I would still say, Rich, it's fair to say there's a possibility, there's a pathway where one or both of them still could end up having new deals before the start of the season. I think that in Dak Prescott's case, Jerry Jones wanted those leaves to fall. A lot of them have fallen at this point. They got a pretty good idea what that number might be. There's different structures you can talk about. You can talk about a shorter deal potentially. And with Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones has watched him lead a team 3 years in a row that's won 12 games. Does he want to push this all the way through the season? Is there a possibility something could get done? I wouldn't rule out either of those scenarios here, Rich, but Dak will be the one to keep an eye on just because that's such a huge piece in a marketplace that also, of course, includes Tua Tagovailoa. It includes Jordan Love. It's going to include some other young quarterbacks in the coming years once they become eligible here. But right now, the biggest contracts, the market reset contracts, they're generally about leverage. It's hard to imagine somebody who's got more leverage right now than Dak Prescott.
Unless it's Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, right? It's not like there was leverage there. It was just, giving him what they were happy to give him, I'm imagining, as well as figuring out by the time his contract's over, $55 million might be a relative deal for somebody of his talent level as well as market value. And that's why I identified when I was talking to Mike that just figuring out how it would work. Obviously, Dak, you said, has the leverage. That wouldn't be exacted till 2025, we're assuming. And then there's Brock Purdy to go next year, which is also looming over the Ayuk conversation that's occurring right now. And Jordan Love goes, Tua goes. That's why I'm kind of thinking maybe it's a couple of years until C.J. Stroud is the guy who gets to 61st. Like, that's the one I pegged. Just trying to throw a dart at the board here, throwing that.
You also have to look at this as percentage of cap. And, the percentage of the cap taken up by the top quarterback contracts has gone from 15% or so a decade ago.
Right.
So now all these deals are getting done at upwards of 20%. If you even look at the Trevor Lawrence deal versus the Joe Burrow deal,
yes,
in terms of percentage of cap, obviously Burrow was significantly more because the cap was like $20 million lower when he signed his new contract. So that's the other part of it is all these teams are budgeting out into the future. The cap had an unprecedented spike this past year because the COVID debt had been paid off. You got gambling money, you got new media deals. And I would anticipate that it continues to grow, probably not at a $20 million per year type of a clip, but it's going to continue to go up. So, with regard to Dak and when he can exact that leverage, I would argue, certainly the maximum leverage is when you've got additional bidders in 2025. But if you're Dak's agent, and Todd France has been doing this a very long time, he's got a very good idea of what the marketplace would be for Dak Prescott. And the Cowboys have a good idea that, hey, if we get into a multiple bidder situation, that's where it might be a Kirk Cousins type situation, and there only has to be one team to outbid us. If you're the Cowboys and you love Dak Prescott, which they do, your best time to get a deal may be right now, but Dak still has that leverage because if he doesn't get the number and the structure that he feels comfortable with prior to the start of training camp or maybe the regular season, then at that point, I think that the odds significantly spike that he's going to be putting on a different uniform in 2025.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the road.
We'll have to wait and see what happens, good people. It's going to get a little bit crazy out here. Trey Lance. It's time for Trey Lance season. Or not. I'm Mark Holmes, and I appreciate you guys, and I will see you soon. Peace.